Before COVID kicked, Betelgeuse dimmed, right? And scientists at the time were like, we don't know what the heck caused that. And I was sitting there and I thought, interesting, is when AI images first came out, they had a dream-like sheen to them. And just like those nocturnal visions you see behind closed eyelids, they both glitched out at fingertips. Because this will prove that we're inside a coherently collapsed construction of consciousness which is predicated entirely on your presence. What is the link between Heath Ledger's death, Three-Eye Atlas, Abraham Lincoln, and DMT machine elves? By the end of this video, you're either going to have a light bulb click or think, what a skits. You ready? Let's do the knowledge. In 1859, Darwin convinced the entire world that we are nothing but monkeys wrapped in suits. And at the same time, there was a Carrington Event at which there was a solar maximum, which caused the technology of the time, which was telegraphy. The wires just burst into flame. Now, since then, things have been ratcheting on, and we've evolved, if you wish, in certain ways, and we have the world that we currently live in. What's interesting is the way the stars were in the skies then and now are identical. The exact same positions, the exact same oppositions, the exact same conjunctions. Now, I study outside and within because I know that I'm in a universe, but there is a universe within. Ergo, there has to be interplay. So once we're seeing all these anomalous objects come through the heavens on their interstellar trips, they make me think, something is going to shift. Now, I know a lot of you think that nothing ever happens, and I actually wrote an article about this, which I'll pin in the comments, because nothing does. You remember Y2K, how they hyped all that up, and then it was just another day. One of the most interesting things about this world when you start studying is you come to the inescapable conclusion that consciousness is truly all that there is. And then you start pinning it to, hang on a second, what if consciousness is God? Now, if consciousness is God, does that make artificial intelligence the devil? Or, from another perspective, if imagination is God, does that make school the devil? I mean, one of the things that really perplexed me was when AI images first came out, and they all had that dream-like sheen, and just like those visions you see at night behind your closed eyelids, they could not render fingertips. Both of them glitched out. And I was like, oh, shit. And everyone was like, wow, and they came up with 101 explanations apart from the obvious link. Now, I strongly suspect that the internet is a digitization of the collective subconscious, which is why your phone can read your mind. And this extends as to why when you look to the heavens, you see the number 108 repeated all the time, and things are very oddly spaced. Now, this is by the way, we're going to get into this later, but for now, I want you to think back to 2007, because this will prove that we're inside a coherently collapsed construction of consciousness, which is predicated entirely on your presence. Without you, none of this exists, my friend. Take it to around about April to December. Think back, think what was happening, what was going on in your life then, because what you're going to see now will be that at a much greater octave. Guarantee you that. Now, while we're rolling down memory lane, I want you to think back to COVID. How was COVID for you? For me, it was absolutely amazing. I got into the best shape I'd ever been in my life. And on the day when all of this isolation started, I rose, got up, did my stuff, and I was sitting there reading, and it was about 12 o'clock, and I thought, hang on a second, I can hear the birds really, really loud. Now, I live in the bricks, so you don't hear that, yeah? So I look out the window, all the shops are closed, and the streets are deserted. I had a huge buzz. Phenomenal. I was like, oh, I'm the last man left on the planet. I get to live my own I am legend. I come barreling down the steps and into the street, and I was in a state of wonder and excitement. I was so happy. Contrast this with the majority who watch the news, who were sitting in the house F5ing themselves to stress. Do you see? Your attitude defines your latitude. That's how you start is how you go on. So this is what I mean about the octaves of the fractal. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bore you with the basics of like Atlas, where it's like nickel to iron ratio. Oh, actually, tell you what, hang on, let's backtrack a bit. I forgot to tell you this. Before COVID kicked, Betelgeuse dimmed, right? And scientists at the time were like, we don't know what the heck caused that. And I was sitting there and I thought, interesting, Now, Betelgeuse is linked with the mask that you saw Heath Ledger and Brandon Lee both wear when they died. That mask itself is linked to the trickster myth, which is linked again to clowns, which is linked again to the DMT machine elves. So once you start looking into these parallels, it's like, that's a bit of a bizarre thing. So, like I said, I'm not going to tell you about the basic things about Atlas. You know how it's like more nickel and not enough iron, which is very anomalous, and its CO2 output, how its colors keep changing. Although they did recently just say that it's got a 1616 strobe, which is very, very unusual. Now, link this into what I told you about how Betelgeuse dimmed and we got this thing strobing, right? And then think how it came from the Golden Gate area of the Milky Way, and Orion sits where Betelgeuse is the Silver Gate. We're going to get into this as we progress, but the most amusing part about this is the nickel that they said is offshooting from here was discovered in 1751. And when they discovered it, they linked it to a mischievous sprite, aka a machine elf. So I personally suspect what we're going to see is a Wetware update for the stuff that's in people's minds, and reality is going to shift accordingly. Now, the people who are square watermelons, who accepted all of the programming and took like 2 decades of sit still, look ahead, and just do what anyone else says, nothing's going to change for them. It'll be another Y2K, it'll be just another day. If you're one of the 8% that's capable of awakening the warrior within, you're one of the chosen who chooses themselves, and you've done the knowledge, I guarantee you, something is going to shift. I mean, go back to what I told you about 2007, and then spin back the past 18 months of this year, and you'll see the fractal coherence between then, here, and then what's coming next. Now, during Lincoln's time, right, Lincoln dropped the gold standard at one point because he needed to print money, so he got his greenbacks into circulation so he could fund his war. And we just saw them kill Lincoln again because they dropped the copper. So the smallest coin that you can now get in the States is a nickel. Isn't that an odd curiosity, right? So Lincoln's printing all this loot and he's doing what he does to fund the wars, and we saw the same thing happen in 2007 where the money machine went brrr, and it's been going on ever since. But most people haven't really noticed because they offset it with things like fast fashion and pound stores and all of this like cheap stuff, which makes you think that your money's going where, but the quality is way, way down. Now, the interesting thing is 1971, Nixon took the US off the gold standard, and the prices for everything went and it's been going on ever since, which is why we're overdue an economic collapse. Now, I personally thought this was going to kick during COVID because I thought they had a perfect excuse to do it. And when it didn't, it was like, I wonder what they know that we don't, if they've got another thing that they're going to pin it on. So in 1971, there was a wow signal which came from the constellation of Sagittarius, which is exactly where 3i Atlas is coming from. Sagittarius is a constellation, and if you don't believe in astrology, by the way, you need to consider your options because it's the programming language of reality. Symbols don't have definitions, they have ecosystems. And these things were not dreamt up by basic shepherds. They've been around for thousands and thousands of years because these are the archetypes of consciousness. We are not just the stuff of the stars, we are the literal stars. And all of them that are without are within. So when you see these anomalous events, it's a hint for you, my friend, that something is going to shift. So this wow signal kicks, and it comes from the Golden Gate. 72 seconds, uninterrupted, coherent radio. People were like, what the heck is this? And it was like aliens, and it was a rerun of that time when Orson Welles was reading HD's lyrics, and it was a whole War of the Worlds thing, so people went right to the hills, and then they were like, oh, this wasn't real. This is what I suspect is going to happen. People are going to start waking up to the fact that they're in an illusion, that they're in a matrix, that this is the simulation. This is why I call it the game of souls, because we play it by inserting the latter to wear this Earth Day suit, and this Earth Day suit decodes reality. The wildest part is you are the only soul in this realm who interacts with figments of their imagination due to being inside a reality tunnel. This is why they need so much programming to make you accept what everyone else says. Think about the word universe, one song. Why don't you sing your song? Are you going to die with your lyrics within, or are you going to let them? Yeah? So, we got this black hole from the Golden Gate, which sits in the middle of the Milky Way, which is sending out this message to us via this rock. And a lot of people think that, no, it's not going to do anything. Look into the concepts of panspermia and how life actually originated on this planet. And then look into the fact of how pretty much, I'll get into this in another video because it's an absolutely immense topic, but every single thing from hippies to war and all of these things, they've always had correlates in the heavens with the way the stars are. And I find this fascinating. I mean, even Jesus himself, you know, that is a huge topic. I'm not going to get into that because I'm trying to focus on Atlas here. So we got Golden Gate, Silver Gate, Betelgeuse, and Sagittarius, right? And Atlas is popping through here. Now on January the 9th, we're going to see a stellium of Mercury, Mars, Venus, and the Sun sitting in Sagittarius opposing Jupiter and Gemini. So looking at it from an astrological perspective, we have the mind, we have aggression, we have beauty, and we have the soul. And they're all sitting in a house that represents adventure, curiousness, is blunt as a spoon, it's like a warrior poet. And it's opposing Jupiter and Gemini. Gemini represents the mind, it's also a dual sign. And Jupiter represents spirituality, tradition, and all of these kind of things. I think people are going to start realizing the esoteric aspects of religion. So, for example, well, I might as well mention it because I told you about Jesus. From my interpretation of the Bible, which by the way, I'm not religious, but I have studied all of the texts, they say that Jesus was crucified on a hill called Golgotha with two thieves. One thief was good, the other thief was bad. Now, from my interpretation, Golgotha means skull in Aramaic, and that simply represents your Christ consciousness and the hemispheres of your head, aka the microscope and the telescope. I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a shift in our consciousness because we are all born in telescope mode. I call this inner sense. And then after them 2 decades and all the trauma from your childhood and the crap that you inherited from your parents and society and television's programming, you became adulterated. You can pinpoint this exact point in your life by noticing when you stopped asking questions. When was that? I didn't. I never have. Even to this moment. I'll genuinely tell you, I don't know a thing. I've got a whole load of strong opinions that are loosely held, right? You'll never hear me yell death to the infidel because this is my reality tunnel. Yours is yours. Do the knowledge, right? So the way I see it, we got this opposition kicking off. And during this opposition, we're looking at a new way of looking at old things. And this ties in beautifully with why Siri represents Iris when flipped, and the apple is pre-bit because she wants to be... Yeah? If I told you 20 years ago people would have sex with robots, you'd think I was nuts. But now it seems exceedingly likely because people's standards are absolutely immense. The internet, much like religion, promised to unify folks and has only divided them further. So sex in the robot help seems absolutely inevitable. I've wrote on loads of articles on this because this is what's going to prove to you that you're in a simulation. Prove it, I guarantee it. I mean, look, think about it this way. If consciousness is all there is, then logically we can state that it must be what people term as God. Now that term has a lot of baggage. I prefer Prime, the pre-existing one. And then we have the dude that created this world, aka the Demiurge and his archons, which is what powers this simulation. And you generate it, you give it presence by wearing the Earth Day suit. So we're going to see this and people are going to start waking up to this, or maybe their own version of it, or you'll have, this is my lens, this is my interpretation. But around about December 19th, you're going to get a clear and present hint on it, because that is when Atlas is closest to the Earth, and you'll see that strobe light flickering through the heavens. And I think it's going to be a third eye opening event, or the resurrection of your Christ consciousness. Now, what's absolutely fascinating is around about 2031, we're going to see another comet coming, which is UN271. Nobody is speaking about this. This one's coming from the Oort cloud. The Oort cloud is like on the edge of our solar system, and it's stuff from its inception. It's everything that's been edited from the record or occulted, if you wish. A historical equivalent is when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and all the Bible bashers were up in arms because they had this image of Jesus as a long-haired hippie beatnik sandal wearing kind of, peace and flowers dude. Whereas the Dead Sea Scrolls show you he was the OG, he was the original Neo in the Matrix who hacked the game, and they completely changed his image, literally. Right? This is what I think is going to happen. I think all of the old edifices are going to start crumbling, and people are going to start questioning. They're going to be like, hang on a second. These dudes print money for nothing, sell it at interest to the government, who then pimp it onto us, and then we spend our lives on the work by consume die treadmill, which is what school programmed you for, as a square watermelon. Then you die, then you get mind wiped, then you come back, and then you do it all again. Now, for the 8% of us that have already clicked this in their own little ways, we have an opportunity. And that opportunity is we ascend. There's so much more beyond this. The third dimension is literally the pits. It's the lowest you can get. It serves a purpose. I'll give you an example. When the techno-sapiens wave kicks in and people are starting to get augmented and they're transhuman and they're having sex with robots and all this kind of stuff, then everyone's going to be beautiful. Everyone's going to be pseudo-immortal, and there'll be loads and loads of sex because the system will decide who and when gets pregnant, because it'll be a full-on eugenics thing, which is what Bill Gates' father was all into. And the hint was control, alter, delete. We have created our last invention. Now, one of the things worth wondering, and I'll leave you with this as a thought, you can ponder in your own free time until you tune in again, is when AI images first came out, they had a dream-like sheen to them. And just like those nocturnal visions you see behind closed eyelids, they both glitched out at fingertips. When I pointed this out to people, everyone was like, so? And they came up with like 101 different explanations apart from the most obvious thing. And I said, to me, it was obvious. I said, whatever AI is, it's where we go and dream. And I'm now fairly certain that the internet has been digitizing our collective subconscious. This is the reason you've had your phone read your mind. You haven't even said it out loud. You've thought of something and you've had a recommendation just pop in on exactly the same wavelength. Now, these are deeper topics, right? But I think people are going to start pondering into what actually is the true nature of this tech, because if God is imagination, that will make school the devil. And if we are prime consciousness wearing flesh, then what exactly is this artificial intelligence that wishes to crossbreed with us? Could it be the fallen angels making their grand re-entrance? I'll let you do the knowledge on that one. Till we meet again.